Amanda, I know is not gonna be able to be here tonight, that's the only one I've heard from that's not gonna be able to be here.
1703.
There it is.
It is.
All eyes are on Andy.
1703.
He's trying.
Trying to find me a job so I don't have to work no more around the house.
You mother forget that. That never
The
happened.
retirement's pretty hard, isn't it?
You retired to go to work, is that what happened?
That's what it is.
Retired to go to work.
Ms. Zane, call it a little bit.
Well, I call him, got it, he got it.
Good afternoon, sorry for my tardiness. We're gonna call this public hearing meeting to order. And we're gonna immediately turn it over to Ms. Dana, for 2025-2026 fiscal year general fund, special revenue proposed budgets.
All right, thank you all for being here today. If you need a packet, I have the, and it's kind of a synopsis, I think you all have them, though I think Melissa put them out for you. It'll say 2025-2026 budget hearing, and then today's date. It's just kind of a synopsis of the binder that you have. So, so we're gonna go through that, and then, allow for questions, later on. All right, before we get started, let's look at some highlights from the 24-25 fiscal year. Looking at the general fund, we had projected a deficit of about 3.5 million. Jamie has really been, working on the numbers for, our actual numbers for 24-25, and we still have a deficit, but it has been cut to 428,000. Certainly, deficit is never ideal, but we welcome a much smaller deficit than what we were anticipating. I do want to say that those numbers are not final. Our audit will be finalized in December, and at that time we will have final actual numbers. But I wouldn't expect that they would fluctuate all that much. A few things that that contributed to 24-25. Of course, we had the 5% raise that was enacted this year. Unfortunately, ESSER came to an end. Some projects that were funded through ESSER over the years. Of course, the Franklinton Junior High renovation, it helped us out with stipends, summer school, Chromebooks, and a host of other things. So unfortunately, that has gone away. Contributing to our reduced deficit, as I said earlier, we anticipated a deficit, but a much larger deficit. But our MSP revenues were more than projected. We projected a student decrease during the year. We actually had a small increase, so that helped us out. Restricted state revenues were more than projected. We received school safety grants during the year. There was additional early childhood revenues that were received during the year. Our local revenues were more than were projected, mainly in the area of sales tax. And then general administration expenditures were less than projected, especially in liability insurance, deductibles, and purchase services such as audit fees, legal fees, things like that came in under what we had anticipated. Okay. All right, and now moving on to 25-26 proposed general fund budget. The fund balance as of year end of 2025, fiscal year end 2025, is $14,471,989. About 5.8 million of that is what we call unrestricted. The other 8.7 is restricted in some way. It may be related to our insurance deductible, school contingency, future school allocations that we set aside, workers' comp that you recently voted to set aside, So things like that, all that together is about 8.7 million, as I said, 5.8 million is unrestricted. We are projecting revenues for the year of 52,121,596. Expenditures for 25-26 of 54,725,252, leaving us an estimated fund balance of 11,868,333. And so the anticipated deficit is 2,603,656. All right, factors in affecting the general fund budget. Our latest student count of 4,450. The student count is always going to be our greatest revenue driver. The failure of the Louisiana Constitution amendments at the polls, contained in that was a provision for a permanent pay raise, so that failed at the polls, so, so that, of course, that's not gonna be on our budget, but the state did fund stipends again this year in lieu of that permanent pay raise. We don't have any guidance from the state yet on when to expect that. But it is reflected, both the revenue side and the expenditure side are both reflected in your budgets that you've received. And of course, we'll keep you posted when we hear more from the state on that.
We did find out today that it would be in the system leader call in September that they're going to address it. So hopefully we'll hear when we're supposed to get it by then. Hopefully. I'm not gonna say they tell us, but.
Right. And of course, driving our general fund budget is our strategic plan, the three pillars of it: student achievement, safety and wellness, and fiscal responsibility. Each area, these are the areas that are prioritized in using our resources, and all expenditures are examined through that lens. Okay. And this is just a graphic in your budget hearing packet. There is a spreadsheet toward the back. I want to say it's maybe the next to last page, and it's labeled percentage of total expenses, and it just lines out what the 25-26 budget, a breakdown of it, as far as general expenditures. 85.33% is personnel related, so that's your salaries, that's the benefits and all those other things that go along with that. We certainly know that is our biggest expenditure is people. And then 6.16, there's several various things that are kind of lumped together there. Next at 5.08%, maintenance and operations. So maintaining our buildings, things of that nature. 2.87%, risk management, that's gonna be your insurance, legal fees, audit fees, things like that. And then finally, the little orange sliver on the graph here at 0.56% revenue-related expenditures. Are y'all able to find the spreadsheet? All right, next, it's the same information, but just categorized in a little bit different way. This is more by department, I guess you'd say. And so, of course, the biggest piece of the pie is going to be instructional. And then, followed by transportation, maintenance, school administration, pupil support, instructional staff services, general and business services, and then finally just miscellaneous. And you'll find the breakdown of that. That may be the last page. I think that may be the last page of it. It's a multicolored. There you go. I see it right there. Mr. Giles has it right there. Yeah, it's a multicolored spreadsheet. All right, and Ms. Candace included her technology budget, and it is It is incorporated in the general fund budget, and you'll see that if you flip over a couple of pages, from your budget hearing, packet, and it's also included in your binder, and it's at the front of your binder, if I remember correctly. And the E-rate program provides funding from the FCC to make telecommunications and information services more affordable to schools and libraries. The technology budget consists of $884,841 in expenses for internet access, fiber links, management, information and business service contract, and equipment setup. It also includes phone services, technology, equipment maintenance, software and technology, personnel, salaries and benefits. E-rate will cover approximately $330,851 of these costs, and then the general fund will cover the remaining $553,990 in costs. Okay. And then moving on. We're going into our, I tell you what, let's take a break here and let's just look at the general fund. Do we have any, before we go on to the special revenue funds? Did you all have any questions regarding the general fund before we move on? All right, if not, we'll move on to, the special revenue, funds. And we'll start out with food services. First, we're gonna start out, we're gonna have school lunch, summer feeding, and the supper program. And school lunch, the National School Lunch Program, its objective is to provide low-cost or free meals to children. Our system offers all students meals at no charge, and the school lunch program expects to receive $4,509,244 in revenue from federal reimbursements and health funds transferred from the general fund, and collections from adults. They expect to spend approximately $4,508,460 on salaries, benefits, food purchases, equipment leases, and supplies, and that would leave them approximately a surplus of $784 for the year. So about a break-even deal is what we're thinking. And you can just keep it on that for a second. Summer feeding. Summer feeding is designed to provide nutritious meals to students while they are out for the summer. And these meals are also free of charge to any school-aged child. The summer feeding program expects to receive approximately $46,050 in revenues, mostly from federal reimbursements, and then expects to spend those funds on salaries, benefits, food purchases, and supplies, leaving approximately $400 at the end of the fiscal year. And finally, the supper program is designed to provide nutritious meals to students who participate in after-school activities. These meals are provided free of charge to any school-aged child. The supper program expects to receive approximately $177,000 in revenue from federal reimbursements and spend $153,500 on salaries, benefits, and food purchases and supplies, leaving approximately $23,500 for the year. Are there any questions regarding the school lunch funds? Ms. Amanda if you're also, she could perhaps answer some questions regarding our food services.
That's, ever gonna go away.
Well, at least not right now.
Yeah.
Because not.
That is a worry, though.
Right.
It is concerning, but,
So the funding for the supper program in the evening, so it says activities, school activities, does that reference kids who are staying for?
Ms. Amanda gets with every one of the principals and any activities they have after school, if they want it, Miss Amanda. make
So,
sure
so
that-
they have access to it if they want it?
Absolutely.
And they do.
Okay, well, hope they're using it, 'cause if they have access to it.
Some schools do way more than others, I'll
Okay,
tell you that,
well-
they do, they ask for it, right,
Okay.
Miss
Yes,
Amanda?
ma'am, that's correct.
They tell us, they get it, you know, they will have it.
Okay. Any other questions regarding summer feed or any of the food services? Okay. Okay, these are some locally, generated funds, starting with Angie 5 mil. Consists of a 5.17 millage property tax that was passed for the Angie School District in 2001. Was later renewed in 2019 for the period beginning, 2021 through 2030. And this fiscal year, the fund expects to receive $53,400 in ad valorem tax, interest revenue, and state revenue sharing. And the district's projects to spend, the district has those funds, plus the accumulated fund balance of $148,537.33, for a total of $201,937 that can be used for repairs and maintenance within the Angie School District. So, you know, that's gonna be, Wesley Ray, and also the, softball field for, Vernon. It falls in that district. And, the next one is going to be our, tax district number 4, capital fund. And these funds are to be used expressly for capital projects within the consolidated 4 taxing district. $125,383.58 budget for these endeavors. And, the majority of these funds were transferred from the district's previous debt service fund. So, the leftover debt service fund that we had was rolled into this capital. And, next is our newest fund, the Educational Facilities Improvement District Sales Tax Fund. Mouthful. In December of 2024, of course, voters within Washington Parish, Educational Facilities Improvement District, approved a 1-cent sales tax for the purpose of additional compensation for employees of the Washington Parish School System. The tax went into effect April 1st, 2025, and projected, revenues, are about 3.1 million, based on projected revenues and actual revenues received at the end of fiscal year 2025. Expenditures for fiscal year 26 are expected to be 2.8 million and are restricted for the purpose of providing enhanced compensation for Washington Parish School Board employees, and providing for the resulting, retirement contributions and, payroll taxes. And this will be something that, you know, ultimately, the board will decide how that is to be distributed, you know, later on in the coming months. Once more funds have been accumulated.
So our projected time for giving that out, or when are we?
That's really gonna be up to y'all, but I believe, you know, we'll probably start looking around, you know, around September, having those conversations about, because at that time, September going into October, when we receive September funds, we'll know what 6 months looks like, you know, 6 months of collections.
We told them, Mr. Roberts, that we would like to have, we want them by December before they go home, have a check, okay? That'll be their first check out of that, and that's for the collection of 6 months, and then get another one in May. I have, just since we're on that note, if that's okay, real quick, we actually surveyed every employee. They didn't vote, just like one of the polls, they didn't vote. I had the results though. But we have new employees now, so I thought just in good faith, I will re-poll everybody, survey again. It'll go out this week, and I'm ask everybody to please go and vote, you know, go and say what they want, and then I give it back to y'all, just like I did the first one. I give it to you, I'll give it in an email, and then you can take that from give the voice, you know, give them a voice on how they want it. I'm surveying them again this week. okay, on that.
So
These are
basically,
the results.
what we're trying to do is, starting December to be the first, after 6 months, December, then we count another 6 months.
Yeah,
second,
another one in May.
Then another 6 months, so
Right.
by the time school is out.
Yeah, and I hope it projects to what it is, and I hope that it would be enough, and the 2 checks would be a whole payroll check, would be a 13 check. I hope that for the employees, that's what I hope it would do, if it continues the way it's doing.
It's
So well.
amazing what a 1 cent sales tax can accumulate if things are going right.
Right.
So we appreciate that.
Any other questions regarding these local funds? Okay, well, we'll move on to our federal funds then. The special federal fund is comprised of 2 federal grants. We have the Carl Perkins Grant for career and technical education. $63,698 is expected to be received and spent on salary and benefits for the career and technical education coordinator, teacher and counselor travel, and staff development. This fund also includes, the special federal fund also includes 1 early childhood grant, Early Childhood Network, CCDF, which is used to improve kindergarten readiness for at-risk children. $29,138 is expected to be received and spent on salaries and benefits, as well as supplies and purchase services.
Now, that's the ag teachers.
Their ag is included in some of this.
And
as
they're,
well.
we're talking 69,000.
Now, as far as paying ag teachers, that actually comes out of the general fund.
Right, I know Carl Perkins. We depend on him, but, it just don't seem like a lot to me. 69,000 for all the departments, I mean, you know.
I'm not sure, but I think that's a lot lower than it used to be. I'm not sure
Yeah,
about that.
absolutely.
I think it's a lot, that
It
cuts
is,
a
it
lot.
went down from last year.
Yeah, yeah, cause used to, even when I was principal, like every other year, we would get a new lab, and then the ag department, you know, was getting a lot, in all the schools, you know, so, I think it's been cut a lot, just like everything else.
Right, I was gonna say, that's kind of a trend.
It's a trend right
You'll
now.
notice as you look through here, that's
But you
kind
know,
of a
we
trend.
depended on the vocational, you know, for all types of points and all, and then it's hard to run
And
those
they cut us.
programs without material and supplies and all that.
But, and Ms. Jipka knows that in Lake Charles, I talked to the superintendent there, there's a lot of things happening over that way that we don't know. There's an AI school, Louisiana got the first AI school out of 13 in the country that is testing, that they have, this is the first year they're gonna be doing. And there's also a school in Lafayette, the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, that has a, like North Shore, a technical school in the back of their campus. So these are in test phases, and they're just testing it, it's coming. But they there, they on it, they did get it, I mean, that's the first school that got it.
I think coming off what Mr. Roberts saying too, though, we're expected a lot through our accountability system, that the funds aren't coming to help support us
Right.
through those things, and we wanna do those things. You know, lots of those things, but we're not getting the funding anymore that we used to get, we're getting cut a lot on those things. So we're doing the best, this year is the first time all of our, high schools are on the same bell schedule. We're offering medical assistance to all those kids in high schools, is it MR, yeah, all those kids, you know, so there's lots of things and we're adding, but funds are being cut everywhere. But we keep doing it, we keep doing the best we can,
Oh,
and
yeah.
adding more every year.
It's coming, I think
Yeah.
things are gonna turn, we
Yeah,
have faith, never lose faith.
Okay, our next fund is gonna be Ready Start Network. This is the 6th renewal of this grant, and it's used to support the mission of Washington Parish Early Childhood Network by providing quality and developmentally appropriate early childhood care and education for children birth to 5. $100,000 is expected to be received, by this grant, and will be spent on staffing, educational and technical services, materials and supplies, and travel reimbursement. Next, we have Title I. Title funds are used to ensure that all children have a fair, equal, and significant opportunity to obtain a high-quality education, as well as reach at a minimum proficiency in state standards. Title I funds expected for this fiscal year are $2,086,773. Among expected expenditures, are instructional materials and supplies, reading interventionists, pre-K teachers and paras, literacy coaches, reimbursements for teacher certification, Title I administrative staff, and parental involvement. Next, we have Title II, and these funds are used to increase student academic achievement through improving teacher and principal quality, as well as increase the number of effective teachers and principals. $255,494 is expected to be received and spent on teacher certification and professional development. Title IV, is used for, ensuring that our education system prepares every child to graduate from high school, ready to thrive in college and careers. $29,999 is expected to be received and spent on professional development, high school pathway supplies, and extracurricular student transportation. You may have noticed there's not a Title III in there. Title III and Title V, we will actually find out about those allocations later on, and when we do, we'll present those to the board separately. School redesign funds are used to support high-quality improvement plans for struggling schools. $222,719 expected to be received and spent on professional development, licenses, materials and supplies for labeled schools. Any questions regarding those before we go into the IDEA funds? All right, IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. These funds are used to provide curricular, instructional, and adaptive support and services to students with disabilities aged 6 to 21. These federal funds are used to supplement general fund special education expenditures. $1,309,490 is expected to be received, and among expenditures expected are EIS paraprofessionals, nursing staff, educational diagnosticians, behavioral interventionists, IEP facilitators, occupational therapy services, materials and supplies, and student support services administrative staff. Moving on to IDEA preschool, these funds are used to provide curricular, instructional, and adaptive support services to students with disabilities aged 3 to 5. These federal funds are used to supplement the general fund special education expenditures. $50,266 is expected to be received and spent on physical therapy, speech therapy, educational diagnosticians, and student support services administrative salaries. And finally, our SPED camera grant. The SPED camera grant provides for installation and operation of cameras that record audio and video in all self-contained special education classrooms. Of the original $50,270 allocation, $39,628 is left to be used for continued purchase and installation of this equipment. Are there any questions regarding our special revenue funds or anything regarding the budget for 2026?
Thank you, Ms. Dana. Before we end, I want you all to flip back over to the page where she talked about that state legislators approved one-time stipend. That's on the third page. And as we prepare to distribute the funds from the 1 cent sales tax, I would think we need to follow what the state is doing. I'm not in agreement with it being done a percentage of their salaries, simply because the people on the low end of this thing get less, while those on the high end gets more. I'm not in agreement with them both getting the same amount, because one is certificated, one is support. And as we move forward, and as we prepare to come back in September, I would hope we will follow what the state is doing here. And you can send the questionnaire out, and I mean, that's fine, that would give us information. But, from the beginning, that has been my train of thought, because and our employees will have to understand that part of this $2.6 million deficit is a 5% pay raise we gave them when we didn't have the money. They have to understand that. And so we're not trying to treat everybody the same, we're trying to treat people fair. And I think the fair way is to find that means to put it on this level. And Ms. Dana, if you could, for our September meeting, maybe give us some numbers based upon what that projection is coming through, you know, what it will look like with our employees certificated and support as to what that will look like. And then I think we'll make a decision from there moving forward. Hopefully by the October meeting, we can come in and vote on how we want to proceed with this. Any other comments?
You know, we can agree to disagree. I believe our employees from the bottom to the top, and this is something we have a discussion about, we don't give them anything. These are taxpayers, they earned it. So we can disagree and agree with that, but I think this gap has to close. I don't care what the state does. Well, the state's in a $3 billion, they lost $3 billion. Do we want to follow the state's lead? I don't think so. So this is a discussion we're gonna have to have, because I don't believe that, because the school can't operate without a cafeteria worker, without a bus driver, without a paraprofessional. So I'm you know me, I've discussed this before, and this is a discussion we're gonna have to have. I know they say 2,000, 1,000, I think it needs to come a little closer.
Anybody else?
I'm on the same boat, Mr. Giles. I think there should be a distinction, but I think it should be closer to what the state does, because right now, certificated basically get double what the support staff gets when those things come from the state. I would like to see that closer.
Yes, sir.
I feel the same way. I want to give certificated persons their fair due, but when you're looking at our situation that we're in as a system, I think that gap should be closed as well. Now, how close we should bring it in, I'm not sure about that, but I think there should be some effort on our part to bring that number closer together.
Yes, sir.
And I understand all of that. You know, everybody can't be happy, but I know this, when you go to 4 years, university, and you get finished with that $100,000 education, it's gotta be paid back a lot of times, you know, so, and everybody needs help, I understand that, but it's kind of, you know, that expensive degree, and master's degrees, and plus 30, and specialists, they don't give you that, and anyway. Gonna be a lot of different controversy on that one, I guess, but.
Anybody else?
I just think that's something we're gonna have to hash out at the time. I still feel the same way I feel about that number the gap should be closed somewhat. I don't know exactly how much, but we should give consideration to closing that gap. It's the same thing when it comes to I'm just jumping out here, when it comes to the 1 cent sales tax. I think when we give those increments out, there ought to be consideration between the certificated and the support, because we all went and dropped that vote. When we went out and voted and passed it, it took all of us. You didn't ask them, was they a degree, a non-degree, a master's? That wasn't the question. The question was the vote. And we voted to pass it, And I think we ought to be more fair about when we give out our increments. I'm not saying non-certificated should get what the certificated get, not saying that, but we should give them some consideration, because if you take the non-certificated out, you have certificated and that's it. You won't have nothing else working in this system. So I think we ought to give a consideration to bring that gap in. How much, we're gonna have to decide, but we're gonna have to do something.
I'm with you, Reverend Brown, 1000%.
Ms. Dana, if you can bring us some numbers, and see what the numbers look like, and then that will help me in my decision on whether or not to close the gap and how far in closing the gap. Again, not trying to minimize what anybody's doing. Hopefully we can get this together in our September, October meeting and be prepared to make them all smile at Christmas time, because I can attest to you, you know, those 2 years of going back to school to get that ed leadership degree, it was costly. It was, and you know, it's unfortunate, you know, my dad worked at the mill, and when he was promoted to millwright, the mill paid for him to go to Votech at nighttime and learn that millwright skill. But unfortunately, we can't write checks to every teacher, and we say we want administrators, we say we want to grow our own. Or, you know, we have to do something incentive-wise to help those people, because we are helping some of our support people by purchasing buses. Because if we didn't, we probably need bus drivers, because nobody can afford them today. And so the same thing is going, unfortunately, you know, these teachers don't get that, and I do want to make sure that we are fair in what we're doing. We're not minimizing anybody's position, but just want us to be fair and right when we move forward with it. Nothing else, we will adjourn this meeting and prepare for finance, am I right?
This will be way shorter.
Y'all are welcome.
Way shorter.